Later today, my son-in-law sent me a thing. He's like sick, by the way. Later today, we're going to do a panel of young people. So I just want you guys to know that. We're going to talk to you guys specifically, but it's okay to start young. Both of my kids were landlords before they went to college. Is that good?
Yes. Yeah.
One bought it on a subject to deal. The other bought it on a joint venture with a pilot who flies 737s for Southwest Airlines. Had his account at Entrust back then, Quincy. So it worked out really well. Back in the day, the history. All right, this is my daughter, Carissa. She works full-time as a registered dietitian. I forgot to show these 2 slides yesterday. Last year, she worked a full year at MCV, it's a local medical college, for free. She had to work the whole year for free. So before she did that, she said, I better work this summer before I start working for free for a year. Sound familiar, Bradley? So what we did is, she did a flip.
There's no picture.
Oh, sorry, there it is. So we did this flip. This house was totally a disaster, as you can see. And this is her doing her flip last summer. And one of the things she did is, this is the second floor in a Cape Cod. And so she came up with this idea that the master bedroom is in front of her. We built this little hallway going down to the bathroom in this room back here. Laundry's over here, but that back bathroom didn't have very much light. So she said, we'll just put a skylight in. Very simple idea. But I was glad she had it. She did extremely well on that house. She didn't have to work. This is the back of the house. Does it look like a mess? It was gorgeous when she was done, and it sold in 3 days. Right? That's how it's done. This is the one, this is my dad, who may wander back in a little while, who made landlording look easy for me when I was a kid, and which I really appreciate. He's an architect. This is Melissa. This is Luke back here. He's working, which is good. This is a house in Chesterfield. Also did extremely well on it. So I just do this as an encouragement to you guys. This is the house Melissa and Luke are working on right now. It's right by the Diamond. It'll be for sale in about 2 or 3 weeks, I would say. Probably ready to paint the inside. So you can do this business as a young person if you want to. And that was the purpose of those slides. So I'm going to get Quincy up here because it's time for Super Q. To blow our brains a little more, which is good. Hey, you want to use this or this? There you go.
Okay. And we're going to talk about my Quincy Long's view of private money lending and borrowing.
Good topic, right?
So hang on.
Yeah.
All right, good topic right here. Good topic.
Getting started.
Yep, take it away.
Okay, everybody. So I call this talk either a lender or a borrower bee. Private financing with self-directed IRAs. Okay. So I'm going to kind of get right into it, and I wanted to, and this should allow for some questions. So this is going to be a shorter session maybe than some of my other ones. But anyway, private or hard money lending. So everybody understands the difference between those two, yes or no?
Yes.
What's the difference? Come on, somebody shout it out. What's that?
Private lending is backed by real estate. Private is everything.
Say that again, Mary?
My guess is hard money lending is backed by real estate. Private is any private lending. That's my definition.
Okay, one short term, one long term. All y'all are wrong. So do you want to know what the real definition is? Okay. Well, you know, private money is when I'm borrowing your money and I'm paying you much more than that stingy bank pays, right? Hard money lending is when I'm lending you my money and the rates are so high it's hard to pay it back. Think about that for a minute. Now, obviously that's a bit tongue-in-cheek, but it makes an important point that I want to start off with. And that is that when you are the lender your perspective is different than when you are the borrower. And so you need to make sure that your mind's in the right mindset when you're talking about doing something like this, okay? So I see a lot of investors get hooked on hard money, and they don't distinguish between when they borrow the money and when they lend the money out. So it's just a bit of perspective. It's a tongue-in-cheek, but a bit of perspective. We've already seen that slide. Okay, so how many people have ever read Hamlet? Okay, my dad was an English professor. I can't help myself. So Hamlet said, neither a borrower nor a lender be, for loan oft loses both itself and friend, and borrowing dulls the edge of husbandry. Anybody ever heard that quote?
No.
Well, you wouldn't, Mo, but...
Pick on Mo.
Troublemaker. There's a guy in the yellow shirt in every crowd. But anyway, that's what William Shakespeare wrote. So are you ready for the quote from Quincy?
Yes.
Shakespeare was wrong.
Okay. I didn't hear that.
What I really should say is Shakespeare was mostly wrong, because let's face it, our society and our economy is driven on borrowing and lending. Am I correct? So if everybody followed Shakespeare's advice, we'd be in trouble as an economy, would we not? In fact, we are in a bit of trouble now because it's hard for people to do loans in a situation where there's disruption in the economy. So he's mostly wrong. In one little respect, he's going to be right, and that's the subject of the top, is why I think that private money lending is good. So let's see. Now, if you have a scenario and you do a hard money loan, what is the worst case scenario that you can come up with?
Get the house back. But don't pay.
What? Shout it out.
Worst case scenario is you actually get paid.
That's correct. Mary is a professional, though. She's cheating. The worst case scenario, if you are doing lending correctly, is that they pay you back. Okay? Then you only made some profit, a little bit of profit. If you are doing it correctly, then when you foreclose on the property, it's a happy tale. And we'll talk about one of my happy tales in a minute. But this is what most people think is the worst case scenario. You foreclose on the house. But if you're doing hard money lending incorrectly, then the house looks like that when you foreclose on it, right? And you look like Homer Simpson, right? Simpson, sorry. If you do it correctly, then this is what the house looks like, and you look like this, right? Which would you like, A or B? B, right? So I have kind of developed a set of rules that I kind of follow about how I evaluate hard money lending, okay? So everybody wants to hear that, right? Okay, so to look like this, I have 10 rules that I follow. One is, do not loan on something you wouldn't be excited to own if the borrower defaults. Because remember what my rule is, right? I want the worst case scenario to be they pay me back, and the best case scenario that they find a good deal, do the repairs, and then I get to foreclose on it. So Kevin, there's Kevin back there. Don't make your payments, dude. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Kevin says I give him mixed signals there about whether he should pay his hard money loan back. But anyway, so don't loan on something you wouldn't be excited to own if the borrower defaults. That may mean different things for different people, okay? For me, for example, it means I'm not going to make a loan on a property where I don't have any boots on the ground. You know, there may be the greatest loan in the world in the state of Washington. I don't have anybody in Washington to rely on, so I'm not going to make a loan where I don't have any boots on the ground that can help me in the event of a foreclosure. Does that make sense to you? These are good rules, by the way, and that's partly born out of my own experience. I did a hard money loan with somebody who I thought was a professional, and he said, well, we'll take care of everything. We'll escrow the money for the repairs. We'll take care of it if it goes into default. You just sign here. So I invested some money, and it was in South Carolina or something like that. Oh, guess what? They repairs were not even close to being properly done, and they released the money, probably some under the table stuff, and I ended up taking back a house in South Carolina and had to manage the repairs that were already supposed to have been done from a distance. Anyway, it was just a big hassle. Another circumstance, I have people that I know that do very, very well. I don't know if anybody invests in the lower end properties, well Kevin does, but you can do very well in those areas on a cash basis, right? Your returns are great. But if you're me, would you see me going down into a less economically disadvantaged area? They go like, there's a target, we can get him. Right? So I would not generally make those loans, not because I don't believe that they're profitable, but because life happens, things happen to people. And if I have to take it back and I'm not prepared to deal with having a property in that area, then that's not a good loan for me to make. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. Rule number 2. Generally, and I'm sorry, Mary and other people that do this the other way, I don't advance funds for repairs until the repairs are done, and then inspect it to make sure that they're done correctly. Now that knocks me out of doing some hard money loans, probably some good ones. But I've had too much experience and seen more importantly, I haven't gotten caught with this too much, but seen my clients get caught in a situation where they loan the money, and including the money for the repairs, and then the person that they're dealing with just needs a little more money on this project over here. Anybody hear this scenario, right?
Yep.
And as soon as they get that project done, they'll have plenty of money to do the repairs on your house. And then the repairs don't get done, you take it back, and then the house is a wreck. So I don't do this. And it definitely knocks me out of doing some hard money loans. But you see why I don't do it, right? Especially if you know, are less experienced, it's really a good idea to hold back funds for repairs. Okay, don't loan. Now this is one part that I agree with Shakespeare on, right? He says, for loan oft loses both itself and friend. Well, I'm not worried about loan losing itself, because if the loan loses itself, what's the replacement for the loan? The house, right? But I have seen so many cases where people meet and they say, wow, that's a great person, and I want to make them a loan out of my IRA. And they're good people, maybe. But you know, again, life happens, divorce happens, death happens. All kinds of things can happen. And I've seen great friendships ruined because a loan was made and then life happened to the borrower and the house had to be taken back. So, you know, don't loan to somebody that you would feel uncomfortable foreclosing on. Now in my case, everybody pretty much knows who I am, right? And I would foreclose on my mother if she didn't pay me back. But my mother would understand that to me it's just business. Right? See? So, by the way, it's not legal for me to loan my mother money from my IRA. I just want to be clear about that. But seriously, you know, loaning money to friends, you know, unless your friend really knows where you are, that's not a good idea. If the loan goes into default, do not delay, take action immediately. Is that really a hard rule to follow? What do you think? It is for most people, because you know what? Yes, I would be excited about that too. So you know what most people do, don't you? They go, oh, it'll get better. It'll get better. Something will turn around. Does it?
No.
No. So you take action immediately. The rule is that you can always stop something that you have started, right? Right up until the foreclosure time at the courthouse steps. But you can't finish it until you begin it. You can always stop it once you've started it, but you can't finish it until if you haven't begun it. Well, I don't know how I said that before, but it sounded better the first time. But you get the idea. This goes for landlording, it goes for private money lending, it goes for everything that you do, right? Don't delay. My favorite story on this is I had a client call me up, and he said, Quincy, I don't know what to do. The guy's not making his payments. I said, well, John, did he get the repairs done? He said, yes. I said, great. Tell him that you're going to start foreclosure. And he says, what do you mean? He just says he needs a little more time. I said, great. Tell him he's got till the next first Tuesday of the month, and you hope he makes it. Right? And if you don't have that attitude towards hard money lending, you're not doing it right. This is not a social working experiment, right? So, okay, well, anyway, that's the point I'm going to make. My next rule is, okay, Mary, now you're going to yell at me for this. I say collect monthly interest. Sorry, Mary. Mary doesn't do it that way.
It depends on the borrower.
It depends on the borrower. I don't care who it is. Now, some of you may think this is a ridiculous rule because this is largely done out of my retirement plan, right? So why in the hell would I worry about monthly payments? There are 3 reasons. Reason number 1 is you need the borrower to feel what I love to call the pain of the payment. You need them to have a reminder every month that there's a house that they haven't got fixed up and sold yet, right? So I need them to feel the pain of the payment. That's number 1. Number 2, you need an easy and quick way to figure out if life has happened to that person, right? And if you look on your online system and see that no payment has been made, that may be an indication that that person is in trouble somehow. Does that make sense to you, right? So this is a check, pain of the payment, and then you check to see if everything's going okay. The 3rd reason is not up here, but the 3rd reason is if you do what Mary does and life happens to that person and then they're not in default because you don't have any payments due till the end of the loan, that can put you at a disadvantage. And I had a client that this happened to. He kept making loans for 18 months or something like that, and he'd say, it was a distant cousin of his or something. He'd say, oh, he's such a good guy. Oh, yeah, he's a good guy. Well, what happened is he made a loan, and I kept telling him, I said, John, don't do it that way. You're really, you're making a mistake. Oh, yeah, it'll be fine. So life happened to this guy. I think he went into divorce or something like that. And my client was like, okay, what do I do? He wasn't in default. He had to sit there for 9 months and wait until the loan went technically into default before he foreclosed. So you need a way to declare them in default. So that's my rule. So sorry about that for those of you who don't like my rule. Okay, if you're not sure about how to evaluate a loan, some of you are fairly new, then hire somebody to help, right? If you're not sure how to run comparables, then hire an appraiser. Whatever you're not sure about, if you don't know about repair lists, give the repair list over to somebody who kind of knows, say, is this reasonable or not? You get the picture? You don't have to be out there on your own all the time. And by the way, I follow the golden rule. Everybody's familiar with the golden rule, right? The biblical version, right, we all love, which is what? Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. And the hard money lending golden rule is what? He who has the gold makes the rules, right? Both good sayings, both accurate, right? So if I, for example, am in a situation where I'm not sure about the value of the property, I'm going to hire an appraisal. And who's going to pay for that? The borrower. Right? Why? Because that's my rule. Oh, you don't like my rule? Well, that's okay. You don't have to get the loan, right? But that's my rule for doing the loan. Does that make sense to you? Yes. Right? But seriously, you don't have to be out here on your own. I mean, Mary can look at something in 15 minutes and know if it's the right deal, but not all of us can do that. We don't have the skills of somebody like her, right? Next, get title insurance, 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 okay? I used to be a fee attorney for American Title Company. I've seen the way people screw up titles, okay? It's just so cheap. And who pays for it again? Oh, you guys are learning. I'm glad to hear that, right? it's so cheap, and it's, especially if it's done at the time of the loan, and it's so necessary. So you guys kind of agree with that, right? So you want to hear a story of how title insurance saved some people's butts? I won't say ass. Can I say ass? Oh, okay. Sorry. I would say more than that. So here's an actual scenario from my family, okay? So we made a hard money loan, and the guy said the house was worth about $280, somewhere in there, $270, somewhere, say it's $280. That's okay. So we said, he said, would you loan me $215? I said, no, best I can do is $200,000. He bought the house for $199,300 at the foreclosure sale, so it seemed pretty reasonable that $200,000 was a good number. You agree with me? So I said, okay. And this guy had given me several other opportunities, or what he thought were opportunities, but I was like, you're crazy. I'm not loaning you 80% loan to value. But, you know, no, not going to do it. But he finally came up with a house in a nice area, 3,800 square foot house, something like that. And I said, okay, I'll take a chance, because he'd been out there doing this for a long time as a flipper. So I made the loan. It closed on October 11th of 2013. Okay, no problem. Everything's good to go, got title insurance, everything's perfect, right? Unbeknownst to me, he goes 4 days later to another title company and borrows $215,000 more dollars. Does this sound like a problem to you? Yeah. But he wasn't done yet, because 10 days later he went to a third title company and sold the property with 30-year financing, collecting a $45,000 down payment from a homeowner. So he's collected now $400 and some odd thousand. And then I found out later that he had collected $100,000 to split the deal with an investor at the foreclosure sale. So his $100,000 net investment, he's now collected $460,000 on. That sound like a good idea?
No. For him?
What's the return on that, Ed says? Don't try it, Ed. Okay, so let's analyze the situation. So, am I okay?
You were recorded first.
I was recorded first, and I made the loan, and I have title insurance. Am I okay?
Yeah.
Generally, I'm okay. What about the second person that made a hard money loan? Are they okay?
No.
You're wrong. They are okay. They don't get paid interest, but the title company didn't pick up my lien, right? Because my lien was in the gap period. And the gap is the period between the time it is filed and the time it's indexed such that you can find it. Okay? Did the second title company do anything wrong? Not a thing. Did they have to write a $215,000 check?
Yep.
Yes, they did. Was it a good investment for that lender to have title insurance on that loan?
Yeah.
Now the homeowner, did they do anything wrong?
No.
They got screwed and walked away from $45,000 and sued the title company, and I don't know what happened. But do you think title insurance is important now? Now, I told you that I'm okay, so what did I do? Knowing me, what did I do with the property? I foreclosed, that is correct. So now, in theory, I have a house that's worth $270, $280 that I've got $200 in. Of course, in practicality, I need all that room because, you know, of the cost of the waiting and waiting and waiting. Oh, and then, but it wasn't done yet, see, because I found out that the foreclosure partner that I mentioned, right, that put up $100,000, he forged the other guy's name on a deed, deeding him half the property. Okay? So in other words, and it's clear, you can see he's just traced the signature, right? It's clearly a forgery. Oh, but the good part is that that predates the date that I recorded my deed of trust. You getting the picture that this is a messed up deal? But it was recorded after I filed my deed of trust. So in theory, under the law of Texas, it's clear that my foreclosure wipes it out. Now, what do you think another title company, if I try to go to sell that, are they going to say, oh, well, that's okay, you wiped them out? Or are they going to be reluctant to issue title insurance on it?
Reluctant.
Very reluctant, because they're not in the business of making that determination. They don't want to get in a dispute between two parties, right? So the bottom line is, here's the end of the story. We foreclosed, we wiped them out technically, but then they had this deed outstanding which predated ours, so the title company that I had affirmatively sued to clear their deed off the title under the theory that they were in the lawsuit that the foreclosure partner filed against the crook. So it's really crook against crook, but foreclosure partner against the crook, he said that the trustee made an error by not including his name on the deed, so the title company said, okay, because there's that allegation in the lawsuit, we'll intervene in the lawsuit and we'll file suit to clear his deed off of there so that you've got clear title to be able to proceed. Now, you don't have to understand every word I just said to understand that title insurance saved my butt, it saved the second lender's butt, and it may or may not have saved the homeowner's butt, right? Now, do you want title insurance on your hard money loans?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, enough said. Get title insurance. Okay. Verify that hazard and, if necessary, flood insurance is in place, naming the lender as an additional insured. Let me tell you, folks, this is easy to miss. Okay. If you're busy trying to get the money to closing, and even if you see on the settlement statement that that there's insurance, you may forget to get a binder, a copy of the binder showing that your IRA or your personal money, whichever is the lender, is insured as an additional insured. If it's not on there and there's a claim, what happens?
They cash the check.
They cash the check, exactly right, because your name's not on it. So the purpose of being named as an additional insured is to make sure that you're on the check and can protect yourself in the case of a claim, okay? Everybody got that?
Yep.
Okay. Insist on evidence that property taxes and homeowners association, whatever bills are due, are paid if they're come due during the term of the loan. Now, some of these rules come from experiences of other people and some come from my own experiences, okay? Because a lot of times I'm a pretty easygoing guy, and if you've got mailbox money showing up, you know what mailbox money is, right? You don't have to call and ask for it, you don't have to harass anybody, it just shows up in your mailbox, right? So if I made you a loan and you're sending me mailbox money every month and you need a few more months to get the deal done, I don't get too excited about it, you know? So I've had loans that have been extended time and time and time again, but I haven't always been remembering this rule. And sometimes life happens eventually to those people and I have to foreclose. And let me tell you, eating up your profits would be 3 or 4 years of back taxes will eat up your profits in a hurry. And so just make sure that they pay the bills. And if you do a loan and they want a little more time, that's okay. Give them some more time, but make sure that you insist that they prove to you that taxes and insurance and all that are still in place and paid before you do any kind of extension. Did you have a question?
Have you ever collected for taxes or just included that in the money?
Good question. Have I ever collected for taxes and include that in payment? I haven't personally. Some members of my family, my mother does that all the time. But it's just too much for me, and generally the loans are short enough term that they're paid when I do the loan because I have title insurance, right? And they make sure it's paid when they're due. And if I'm a loan for a year or 18 months, even if I forget during the 18 months, there's not enough due to really harm me if I've done the right amount of lending. But that's a good question. Some people do it. I find it to just be too much of a hassle. 10, and that's going to hurt some of you, I know, but get a personal guarantee if you've either got a weak property or if you've got a weak or an entity as the borrower. Now this is common sense, right? Because if you're a lender, your position is, well, everybody should personally guarantee. I don't care if you do it in a trust. I don't care if you do it in a, in an LLC or what. I want you to be personally liable. And so your perspective as a borrower is like, well, you're never getting my house. What is it, Kevin? You're never getting my house back, right? And so I said, great. So then you don't have a problem signing the guarantee then, right? So, just different perspective. I always get a personal guarantee. And also, Mary, you're going to hurt me. You're going to be mad at me for this one too. But I actually had a circumstance where it wasn't necessarily a problem with the being an entity. In fact, it was an individual who did the loan, right, or who was the borrower. And this individual had been very successful, and I had loaned him money 3 or maybe 4 other times, and he always did nice-looking properties in good areas, and he had a good system. He was a California investor coming to Texas, and always paid his bills on time, mailbox money, everything was right, and he made money, I made money, everybody's happy. Until he came up with another deal. And it was 4 little houses on one lot, 1 bedroom, 1 bath houses, and he figured he could make a ton of money renting those houses out to Section 8 tenants. He was probably right if he'd been there and been diligent, right? But I said, I don't know, this is not your typical deal that you've done. I'm not sure I like the collateral, but you've been a good borrower. This was where I went wrong. But you've been a good borrower, so I'll make you the loan. But I want your dad, who just sold his title company and had millions of dollars, to guarantee the loan. So, what do you think happened? So we did the loan. I held back $18,000 for repairs, right, because I do that, right? And mailbox money started showing up. It was great. So about a year later, I was auditing my books, and I noticed that I had never distributed the $18,000. I said, I think I may need to go jump in the car and go see my collateral, right? It was in Houston. So I drive up to the property, and, well, there were no windows, no doors, and no copper. They like to steal copper in Texas. So, what do you think I did? This was an 18-month loan, and this was a year into it. So what do you think I did? Jim, what did I do?
Called it due.
Foreclosure?
Burned it down? Good suggestion. No, I let the payments keep coming in because he kept making the payments. Now at the end of 18 months, what did I do? Because now the loan is due. He had ignored the houses for a long time at that point. So I said, well, I don't really want the collateral and the loan is due. So I had my lawyer write to him and to his dad, say, yeah, the loan is due and I'm not going to foreclose because I don't like the collateral. So I'm going to sue you in Houston, Texas, and then you're going to have to defend that. And then I'm coming after you in California where I know you've got millions of dollars. So please pay off the loan. A week later, I received a check from Dad for the $56,000 that he owed. Okay? That's the lesson for you about getting a personal guarantee. Good stories? This is practical stuff. It's not real sexy like some of the other stuff. Okay. Now, as I said, this is one of my happy foreclosure stories. Okay? So I've done this for many years. Sometimes life has happened to my borrowers and I've had to foreclose. So I had a borrower that I had loaned $200,000 for. Okay? And the $200,000 was to buy a piece of property which he later built some dog kennels on and had a very small house which was initially valued at $0, but they fixed up. And initially they lived there. Then they were nice enough over these 5 or 6 years to set up a tenant operator for the kennel. Okay? So he was paying me 12% interest, because I'm a reasonable guy. So I was getting $2,000 a month on my $200,000 loan. And every year or whenever the loan would come due, they would say, we'd like to renew the loan. And it was mailbox money, remember, and I don't need the money to live on, right? So I said, okay, but you know, you're paying me 12% interest. I mean, the money's cheap out there. Why are you not refinancing it? They said, oh yeah, we know, but you know, it's just that we got this lawsuit going on and we're just kicking their butt. But you know, the lawsuit kind of prevents us from getting a conventional loan. I go, okay, extend the loan. So one day I got a phone call. What do you think the phone call was? Hi, this is so-and-so. Does that, you know, I noticed you have a lien on this property. Is that really there? I mean, they're really paying that? Yeah, they're really paying it. Well, I have a $500,000 judgment against your borrower, and I'm going to foreclose on that property using my judgment lien. What do you think I said to that?
Hey.
Go ahead.
Just pay me off.
You still owe me the $200,000. He said, yeah, I know, but that's what I'm going to do. And so anyway, long story short, I started the foreclosure process, not because I was concerned about this guy, but because the loan was actually due. And so I figured if I started the foreclosure process, there would be no question, but that would put some pressure. And I figured not that I would get the property, but it would put enough pressure on the parties that they may want to settle. Does that make sense to you? So, and indeed, it put great pressure on the parties. And they would come close to settling, and they both told me the other was the devil incarnate. Okay, swear, it's true. And so eventually it just got to the point where it became clear to me that they weren't going to settle, or that probably weren't going to settle, till like a couple of days before the foreclosure was scheduled. Yes, they called me up and they said, okay, I'm going to give him $1,000 a month for 60 months, and he's going to walk away. And I'm going like, no, wait a minute. I do math pretty well.
Yeah.
And I said, wait, you're getting $3,500 a month in rent, and you're going to give him $1,000 and me $2,000, and the taxes and insurance are $500 a month. So you're telling me you're going to get zero for 5 years, and that you want me to let that happen? No. I said, if there's going to be equity, if you're going to give up all your equity in this house, it's going to go to me, not to the judgment creditor. So I foreclosed. And there's more to that story, but you'll have to get wine in me to tell the rest of the story. I foreclosed, and then I went from receiving $2,000 a month to receiving $3,500 a month. Does that sound reasonable to you?
Yeah.
Yes, it sounds reasonable to me too. Now I have to pay some back taxes just for a year and some other foreclosure expenses. But overall, it was a pretty good deal for me. And so I rented it to the tenant for almost 2 years. And then I sold it to him with seller financing for $350,000. Nothing down, because his down payment was his rent for the last 2 years. And $350,000 on a 15-year wrap at 6% with a 5-year balloon. Now, just as a final point before I move on with my talk, what's my yield on that? Is it 6%? No, it's not 6%, right? Because I paid $200,000 for a $350,000 loan. Effectively, actually, if you wanted to amortize it like minus the rent that I collected, almost $40,000 of rent that I collected, it's even less, right? But I don't figure that, that's just rental of money. But anyway, I basically get a yield of like 16.3%, and I figured, well, I got my money tied up, but you know, tying it up at 16.3% isn't all that bad, right? Is that fair?
Yeah.
So that's my happy foreclosure story, and that's what could happen if you do hard money lending correctly. Okay? Okay, now we're going to switch and talk about the borrower's side, or using OPI or other people's IRAs, right? So other people's IRAs is the way you use to make your money today. How many people plan on eating today? Right? You need money to eat on today, don't you, Jim? So if you need money to eat on today, you can't use your IRA to provide that unless you happen to be over 59 and a half or whatever, right? But you can't use your IRA to do that, so you've got to use other people's IRAs to create the money today. And so you can create your own private financing source. Tom Berry, that Jim has mentioned before, has borrowed over $6 or $7 million just from Quest IRA clients to do his real estate deals over the past 6 or 7 years. How would you like to have a line of credit of $6 or $7 million? Would that be handy? Okay. What did I tell you before? I told you that it takes a what? Network, right? What are you in a room full of people that have? You have deals with each other, you have money, and you have all the capability with what you had up till now, and what you have in this room, and what you have at future events like the IRA Fund Cruise, to build the kind of network you need to be able to use OPI to fund your deals this day, and to use your own IRA to fund deals for the future, right? You have everything you need. You can partner with other people's IRAs. Remember, we had talked about so many ways that you can partner with other people's IRAs. Remember the story I told you, the story I told you about some of my partnership deals. I do not tend to be the person that has the deal. I tend to be the person that has the money. Why is that? Because I'm busy. Because taking care of $1 billion of other people's money is a lot of work, right? I have to go on cruises, I have to come to Virginia, I have to go to Europe, Costa Rica. It's just a lot of work, right? But it is a lot of work, and my staff works very hard, right? So I'm not the one that finds the deals. I mean, I'm always jealous of people like Jim and Walter and everything that can just, Cindy, that can just find these deals, and because that's what they do, right? Well, that's not my job, right? I have a business, I'm busy, but you want to look for people like me, people that have money but no time to do deals. And that's the beautiful partnership, right? That's the way you find a partner. So some of the deals I've already talked about, so I don't want to repeat myself, but some of the deals that I've done is provide all the money to buy and fix up a property. We split the rents, right? And when we sell the property, I get all my money back plus half of the upside. That's just a super quick example of what you can do with other people's IRAs. My partner, what did he get out of the deal? I've said this before on these talks, so I don't want to, just beat it to death. But he gets half the property for what? Nothing. For the sweat equity. You guys can be that sweat equity partner. Right? Okay. So, things to consider when you're talking about borrowing money. Now, before, when I'm talking about lending money, I'm thinking I'm a hard money lender. I'm like Mary Hart or something like that, or actually different than Mary, but still the same concept. I'm thinking high interest rates, right? I'm thinking monthly payments, the pain of the payment, right? That's what I'm thinking as a lender, right? Now, when I switch to the private borrower hat, right, am I thinking like that? No. No. I'm thinking of, man, that stingy bank's giving you 0.1%, I'm giving you 6%. That's like 60 times what the bank is paying, right? You see where I'm going with the difference in perspective? So, borrowing private money, though, is all about one thing, and that's your relationship with the borrower, or the lender, okay? Everybody understand that? Private money borrowing is relationship borrowing. It's using your relational capital, as Jim calls it, right, to get deals done. Now, are you messing with them? Are you screwing them by giving them something that is much better and more secure that they could get in the stock market or at the stingy bank? No, you're not, because they don't have access to the deals, right? Does that make sense? They don't have access to the deals. They're like me, they're busy. And so you're giving them an opportunity that they wouldn't otherwise get. But you got to protect that relationship. Also, you need to understand how the lender feels and what their temperature is when it comes to risk tolerance and how desperate they are. The worst the worst private money lender you can come up with is somebody who would be devastated if life happened to you accidentally and you had to you lost the property and it had to go back to them, right? If that would be devastating to them, they're not a good choice as a private money lender, especially on a long-term basis. Does that make sense? I have so many deals right now. Some of them will not go right. I know that, Jim, right? It doesn't go right 100% of the time. And so when something doesn't go right, I'll be pissed, but I won't be broke. That's the ideal kind of lender if you can find them. Seriously. That make sense, Jim? And so also, you have to understand that like a guy like me, money comes in and goes out, comes in, goes out. I don't leave it sitting in my bank account, right? So you might call me up one time and say, hey Quincy, you got $50,000? I might say, sure, I got $50,000. Next time you call me up, I might have no money at all. So you need not one, like that guy's making a mistake if all he does is deal with you, Mary, right?
No, he has other buyers.
So he has other private
Other
lenders.
yeah, he's got
Right?
several lenders.
So you've got to have more than one lender. Also, lenders change over time. When I was in my 40s, what was I interested in? Long-term capital growth, mostly, right? Now that I'm nearing my mid-50s, what am I interested in? I don't look at any deal without regard to cash flow, okay? Because I'm trying to get to the point where I am in a position to retire. And now, of course, I'm different than a lot of people in that I own a business that will still continue to pay me, right? But still, I'm in a transition phase, right? I'm switching from a long-term capital appreciation view to a cash flow mixed with, oh yeah, that capital appreciation. See what I mean? So lenders change over time, and you need to know where the lender's head is, okay? Also, and this was a great example that Mary gave, make the process completely painless for your lender, especially if they're coming from an IRA. Your goal is to make sure that the only thing they have to do is sign some papers, and then mailbox money shows up in their IRA and they can see their IRA growing. Does that make sense to you? Because I'm always amazed where the borrower calls us up and says, where's the money? Ah! Well, first of all, we can't discuss it with anybody that's third party, right? And I'm going like, wait a minute. Who knows the address of the property? You do. Who knows the title company? You do. Who should get the wiring instructions? You do. Who should get the title insurance, the hazard insurance arranged? You should, right? It's not the IRA lender's position to do that. It's your position as a private money borrower to make sure that you do everything that either the lender knows or should know that they should do. You should protect them with the insurance. You should make sure they have title insurance. You should do all the things that they should be doing, because then it's going to be painless for them and they'll want to loan you money again and again and again. Because Mary loves her hard money borrower, don't you, Mary? Because he makes it so easy for her that she in 15 minutes can make $13,000 on a hard money loan, right? Because, well, 15 minutes plus waiting a few months. But do you understand the point there? So do that. And I always say, because it kind of goes back to number one, protect your lender's interest at all costs, even if that means you lose money on the deal. Okay? It goes back to number one. It's all about your relationship with the lender. I always tell the story of Danny Williams out of Atlanta, Georgia. And Danny listened to this talk and he said, you know, I had a situation one time where I got a call from a tenant, and he likes to buy wobbly boxes. Wait, you know what? Tin cans. No, that's not it. What is it? Manufactured housing. That's it. Move on. So he likes to buy wobbly boxes or happy boxes or whatever you want to call them, right? And he's very, very good at what he does. So he got a call one time from one of his tenants and said, "Oh gosh, the place burned down. Yeah, I'm sure really sorry about that." He said, "Okay, well, nobody got hurt, right?" "No, nobody got hurt, but place burned down." And he said, "Okay." He said, "Ann," that's his wife, Ann. He said, "Ann, pull the file. Let's call the insurance and, we'll just deal with it, right?" So he pulled the file. What do you think they found?
No insurance.
No insurance. They had simply in their busy lives forgotten to do it, right? So is that a comfortable call to make to the lender? No, not a comfortable call to make to the lender, right? So he called the lender, and the lender's like, "Oh gosh." But the lender, to give the lender credit, understood that he had screwed up also. Because if he was following these rules, what would he have done? Made sure there was insurance, right? So the lender, to his credit, said to Danny, he said, "Danny, I'll tell you what, if you'll take half the loss, I'll take half the loss, because it's partly my fault too." Now what do you think Danny said to that? He said, "No." He said, "I have another paid-for property, and we're going to walk the mortgage, substitute the collateral, and I'm just going to pay you. I just wanted you to know what happened." How many deals have they done since then? A lot. I asked Danny to drive me by that property, just to see it in my mind. And so, isn't that a great story? Yeah. Okay, so there are trillions of dollars out there in retirement accounts. You guys know this, right? They're all waiting to fund your deals. Okay, if you go to a gathering, especially a gathering like this, there are millions upon millions of dollars available in this room to fund your real estate transactions. Okay? All you got to do is talk to each other, right? What a beautiful thing. And by the way, you should go on the IRA fund cruise. Did I mention that? Because we do commerce on the cruise. Do we not, Pat?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And is it really hard in this time of turmoil in the stock market? It's really hard to make the statement, "Let me help you recover your stock market losses by solid investment in real estate where it's not Bernie Madoff with all my money," right? Where you can see and feel and touch your collateral and make sure that everything is safe. Is that a hard argument to make to somebody? It better not be, because if it is for you, then you're not in the right business, right? Okay. I always say that as a real estate investor, you guys are heroes. You know that, right? You are heroes. You are the way the economy recovers. You are the people that take a ratty house like some of the ones that Jim was showing his kids did, right? And turn it into a home, either as a rental or as a retail sale to a buyer. No matter what, that's what this economy needs. They need you. So you should be proud of the fact that you are being a participant in the recovery of the economy and the increase in the value of neighborhoods, right? And you should share that pride. Always provide the lender with all the details, You do that, right? Share with them the comps, share with them what you paid for it, share with them your repair list, what you're going to do to it. Make them comfortable that you know what you're doing and that you are a professional, right? Always have a success book. How many of you have a success book? Like, I'm always amazed at how many people don't have a success. What's the success book, Ed?
Or just a portfolio of the work you've done.
Exactly. A portfolio. If you have not done that, oh my God, you need to start now, right? You need to take pictures of the house when you bought it in its worst condition, right? Like Jim did on those flips, right? You need those pictures, right? Then you need pictures of it when it's finished, right? And you need pictures of the settlement statement when you bought it, don't you? To show how much you paid for it. Then you need pictures of the settlement statement when you sold it, don't you? Right? And you need to have a little book of these. And if you're trying to convince somebody that you are a real estate professional, having a book showing the work that you've done is critical. It's like a resume, isn't it? All of you have resumes, or most of you should, right? Why would you think you wouldn't want a resume for your real estate career? That's a success book. And if I can give you a hint of how you get private money lenders, it's that hint right there. If you haven't done it before, you need to do it on your next deal. The best one I ever saw was a guy that took a picture, and here's what he did. He had a deal that he was going to do, and it needed the windows replaced. So before he took the before picture, he removed all the windows. And he took the picture on a cloudy day with no windows in the house. And then when he finished the house, it was on a sunshiny day with bright blue skies. It was the greatest one I ever saw. But anyway, just something to put in your mind, right? Okay, so how do you do this in an IRA? This is just the real practical stuff. If you have a $140,000 house, what's your maximum loan going to be? Typically, it's going to be $98,000. Why is that? Do your math really quick. That's 70% loan to value. That's a good rule, by the way. If you make a loan at 70%, that's a good rule because you need the room for sales expenses, foreclosure expenses, taxes. You need some room in there and maybe even some profit. Am I right, Jim? So don't be loaning for over 70%. So that's interest rate could be anything from, I've seen, from 6% to about 18%. Could be even more depending on if you're loaning to Walter Wofford or not. Be a lot more on that case. 10% interest rate. Typically there's going to be interest-only payments. Very few people in IRAs do those payments with amortization. It's not that it's illegal, but typically they're interest-only with a balloon payment, and anywhere from 3 months to 3 years, typically being 1 year, sometimes 18 months. These are just what we see typically. Minimum loan term is usually there because if you go to the trouble of making the loan as a lender, you want to make sure you get a minimum amount of profit. And of course, all the fees, this case may be an origination fee, but all the fees are typically paid by who again? I forget. Yeah, that is correct. And all the fees for Quest, of course, are paid as well. So if you do this in an IRA with us, you do a direction of investment, you have the note prepared, and the lender would not be you, right? The lender would not be Quest IRA, it would be Quest IRA Inc. FBO, which means for the benefit of your name and your IRA number is typical of the lender, okay? And then you approve all the closing docs and we wire the money to the title company, the deed of trust is recorded in the note and closing documents come back to us and we store them safely for you. So some key points to realize about lending is you cannot loan money to any disqualified person, and we have so much information flowing here we really didn't get to talk about disqualified people, but you can't loan money to yourself. You can't loan money to your spouse or your parents or your kids or their spouses or any corporation, partnership, trust, or estate that any combination of any of those people owns 50% or more of. So bear in mind that be careful who you loan money to, okay? If you're doing it out of your IRAs, okay? You and the borrower are free to set your own loan terms. I gave you an example, but the loan terms vary widely, of course. And you can even loan money unsecured if you're completely insane, or something secured by something other than real estate, as we've talked about. So I'd give you, in conclusion, give you a couple of little stories of tales from the money vault, as we call it, and then I'll end, and I'll thank you ever so much for your attention. This is like my mother's story, okay, where she was in the 2006 range. Think of the timing of this, by the way. In 2006, she was not satisfied with what her advisor was getting her, right? Anybody with me on that? I mean, anybody have an advisor that puts you in like 1% products or whatever? Whatever. And everybody's a genius when it's going up, right? So she says, son, she thinks, I think you're a good investor, son. Would you take care of my IRA? I said, sure, Mom. I'll take care of your IRA like I always want to do stuff for free, Mom. The only law practice I do is when my mom needs a foreclosure done. That's not quite true, but it's close. But anyway, I had Mom send it to, not my place, but one of the other self-directed IRA places. And so she transferred $64,960.09. 3 years later, it had built up to $90,259. Is that pretty good? And that's an increase of over $25,000, or a percentage increase of 38.95%. Now, is that a home run? No, that's called base hits, right? How did she make those base hits? Well, okay, how did I do it? Well, I did it for making hard money loans between 12 and 15%. Every time, reason it's higher than just a straight 12%, because every time there would be points or whatever, so in interest paid, so I had more money to work with each time. So that's a pretty good result, right? It's just called solid base hit type investing, and it increased her IRA pretty significantly. Okay, this example is somebody who heard all this and said, I wonder if Quincy's lying, or if I can really buy a house with nothing out of my pocket. How many people believe now, after this whole weekend, that you can buy houses with no money out of your pocket at all? Okay, that's good to hear. Some of you have listened, right? So she took this and she just said, she found a house that was appraised at $99,370, okay? She said, I'm going to see if I can do this. So she found a guy who had been recently retired. I don't remember if it was voluntary or otherwise. Are there a lot of people that have been recently retired out there? Yeah, like the oil going down and the ripples through economy. Are there people that need to roll their 401ks, yes or no? So she found one of these people and she walked up to him and she said, look, did you know that now that you're retiring, that you can have access to your 401k money and roll it into an IRA? He said, really? Well, that would be great, but I don't know what to do with it. She said, did you know you could roll it into a self-directed IRA at Quest? And did you know that that IRA can then loan money secured by real estate? Wow, that is much better than what I'm getting in the stupid 401k plan at the former employer, right? Did you know that I'm a real estate investor? I do real estate investing actively, and I can help you get a solid return on your money. Okay, does this sound like a difficult conversation? No. So she did, and he loaned her $67,000, which includes $5,000 for repair and an interest rate of 10% and a loan term of 3 years. That's what she negotiated. So she wasn't that good of a negotiator. I would have probably put it a little lower than that. But think about that for a minute. So she had a house. Is that a good loan to value for the person who made the loan?
No, not really.
Well, it's not bad though. I mean, it's at least 70%. I agree, it could be a little lower, but not bad, right? Is that $5,000 for repair, so she took zero out of her pocket, is that okay? Yeah. The interest rate was a little high, right? But she figured she could get the property rehabbed, tentative, and hold it for a long enough period that she could either refinance it out or cash it out, depending on what opportunities came up. So she did this with no money out of her pocket. That's what you can do too, doing this kind of deal. Okay, this is an example of me partnering my money. Again, I think this was on one before. Partnering my money with Sweat Equity Partner. I put up the money, $40,000, to purchase and rehab a mobile home on an acre of land with an anaerobic septic system. I know you can laugh at it all you want to, but it's a cash cow. In fact, Jim talked about, oh, his ratio is 1.25, right? This is no more than double. This is a 2.0 or better monthly. Okay? This is southwest of Fort Worth, by the way. So I put up all the money. I only charged 10% interest, so you can see I was being nice. I didn't even charge any points. It's amazing, right? But I was betting on the increase in the appreciation, so I was going to get my money back plus half of the upside, okay? Is that a pretty good bet? Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but the cash flow was wonderful in the meantime, and I got a decent return plus half the upside. My partner, again, got no money into the deal. He got half of the rent because we negotiated. The cash flow was so high that we figured that 10% was roughly half of what the net rent would be after vacancy and repairs, right? So that's kind of where we figured the interest rate. So I got about half the money from the property, and I got half the upside. He got the other half for nothing. He already had like 40 units in this area, so for him to add one more unit cost nothing to him, almost no effort at all. It was just a day-to-day thing, and so is that a pretty good deal for him? Is that a good deal for me? That's what you want to do, is you want to have something where the IRA is just making an investment and you're just putting the sweat equity in. And if you can't figure out how to do that, we already went through that. And that's my final thought, is open a self-directed IRA today or next week when I give back. I appreciate so much everything, all the attention you've given me, and I know this wasn't the sexiest talk, but Jim, I thought it was really important for you to hear the practicalities of private lending and borrowing, and I thank you very much.